we'll get kicked off here.
All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone. This is Cassandra, one of the co-leads for Russell Place or Promise, focused on our Promise of People side of the house. And then with me,
I'm Teresa Zawaki. I'm the other co-lead for Russell A Place of Promise, and I focus on our place-based strategies. And it's uncommon to see both of us on the same screen, but we're here in Durham, North Carolina, and it just worked out this way.
yes, so we're excited to be with you all this evening. Although we are not physically in Louisville, we're excited to be focusing our conversation this evening on the possibilities of the Russell neighborhood in Louisville, Kentucky. So this conversation will focus on Madison Street. We're going to do a welcome and check-in for folks. So we can go to the next slide. So before we kick off and get into the content for this evening, we want to hear from you all. What are you all looking forward to the most this winter? Are there any family traditions, friend activities, things that you enjoy personally when it's the fall and winter time? We want to hear from you. I can share out first. One of the things I really look forward to is being able to walk through our parks in the city, whether that's Shawnee Park or Cherokee Park, enjoying just like seeing the leaves fall down and seeing everyone in their cute like fall fashions walking through the park and getting a walk in. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy. I'll pass it over to, I see someone has their hand raised. Kayla has her hand raised. If you can unmute and share out what you look forward to.
Hello. We're in the car driving back from Atlanta, and we saw Perkins and Will's firm, so we were like, "Oh my God, they're famous!" But anyway, I'm most looking forward to winter break from school because I'll be done with classes forever and for my whole life, and I'm gonna buy myself a new Xbox and play this game that I've been looking forward to since September, but I knew I couldn't buy it because I wouldn't do any of my schoolwork.
Nice. Rewarding yourself for a lot of good, hard work. We always need that. Anyone else want to share out? Oh, Friendsgivings. Lauren said Friendsgivings. I know a lot of folks are having those, or those are probably starting this weekend since Thanksgiving is next week. Can y'all believe that? I cannot believe we're just 1 week away from Thanksgiving. So having those Friendsgiving get-togethers are really special this time of year. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, I was gonna say I like looking forward to Christmas parties. You know, we all get together on the jobs and with our churches, and I enjoy that fellowship and coming together, And I just love the fall and winter weather.
Yes.
Most people don't, but I like the little chill. It feels good to me.
Yes. The chill, just getting a little bit cooler instead of the 90, 100-degree weather that we had this summer. And getting together around the holidays is always a good time. Anyone else want to share?
I don't know how to raise my hand,
Oh, yeah, Thomas, you can go ahead.
but I enjoy the outside, and family tradition for me is Thanksgiving is down at Shawnee Park watching the football games and hanging out all day. It's like a old school reunion. Everybody from 20, 30 years ago, that moved out of town and everything comes back to the park.
Nice. I think a couple folks have mentioned that before. They really enjoy going down to Shawnee Park around Thanksgiving and seeing those football games, just having everyone come together outside. So thanks for sharing that. We'll take one more person if they want to unmute and share out what they're looking forward to this winter.
I'll share out. This is Charlene Kimbrough, and I put it in the chat, but just relaxing, visiting family. And this year, I plan to maybe go ice skating.
Oh,
Yeah, that's my plan.
Okay.
Let's just hope I live through it. And if something happens, a quick recovery.
Yes, you got this. Nothing's gonna happen. You got this.
Strong angles.
Yes, it's fun. Have a good time, ice skate.
Yeah, so the Paris Town rink is up and running now. So I plan to, yeah, test my skates to that little ice over there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That's gonna be fun. That'll be fun. We also got some folks dropping some things that they enjoy in the chat box. We got basketball. It is the time for basketball for sure, and football. We also have early week before Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, so doing some early activities before Thanksgiving. And then I think I saw someone else. Oh, relaxation. You share Charlene and visiting family. Nice. Nice. Well, thanks for sharing, y'all. I'm gonna pass it, I believe. I'm passing it over to Teresa.
To me. All right. And so we can jump to the next slide. So I think Cassandra is supposed to be doing the agenda, but I'll just say we have an agenda for tonight. We're going to go through some updates on our project status and our timeline for the next 12 months or so. Then we're going to talk about the design for 30th and Madison Street, which we've shared before, but want to make sure people have a chance to see again. We're also going to share some possible phasing options that we have been talking about with our project team. And also we're going to refresh on the themes for the kinds of businesses and organizations and activities that we want to be able to host at 30th and Madison Street. Then we're going to talk about what's next for tenant development. So y'all, this project is 5 acres, and the design that we're going to share with you again is about 230,000 square feet of space. And so we have lots of room for lots of things to happen on the site. And although we do have some folks that are already partnering with us, we have space for more. And so we're going to talk about what that looks like as far as tenant development goes over the next 6 months or so. And then we're going to save some time for your questions because we know you have them. And if you don't now, you may by the end of this presentation. So let's hop over to the next slide. And we will talk about our project status and our timeline. So before we do that, though, I want to just give a little context to where we are. So that big orange and white lined site in the middle of the image, and it says the word site on it, that's the property that we're talking about developing. That is at the corner of 30th and Muhammad Ali and Madison Street. And then you can see that on the left-hand side of the site, there's that track, that railroad track, and that's an elevated Norfolk Southern rail line. You can also see a couple of other really critical community developments that are nearby. To the north of the site or to the left of the site, sort of up and diagonally, is the Urban League Sports and Learning Center and the parking lot. And you can see that on the corner of 30th and Muhammad Ali, there's a building there that doesn't exist in real life. The Urban League has thought about that property as a future development opportunity for themselves. And that is actually an image that shows a hotel on that site, which is something that I know they're working toward. Then as you go sort of diagonally in the other direction across 30th and Madison Street, you have the LDG development site. It's actually a block off of that corner, sort of down to the right where the red brick and the white roofs are. And so that's where the Eclipse apartments are being built. That's 283 apartments that are coming to that space. And then this isn't listed on this diagram or this picture, but if you come immediately to the next block where you see that sort of square-shaped building with the black roof and the red building on the corner, that is the location that was announced earlier this week for the Bezos Academy. And that's an early childhood development center that'll host 80 students between the ages of 3 and 5. And so that's another development opportunity in the neighborhood. And then just off the screen, as you go up 28th Street toward Broadway, is the Opportunity Corner development, which is Norton building the hospital and then Goodwill's headquarters. So there's a lot of activity in this corridor, and we are really in the heart of it. So we can go to the next slide. So as we think about the opportunities for this site, we also keep in mind that this property is currently owned by Louisville Metro government, but there are 2 ways that the city has committed formally that this property will become our POPs once we meet a set of milestones that we're actively working to achieve. So there's a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement between the city and Russell A Place of Promise that the city, the administration, the mayor and his team will commit this property to us. But there was also an action taken last year that many of you all provided super important support for. And that was a declaration of surplus property that was approved by the Louisville Metro Council that directs the city, the mayor, to sell that property for $1 to Russell A Place of Promise once we have achieved a set of milestones that we're working on. So part of that is about our incorporation. Part of that is about making sure that we have design and construction approval for our first phase. But with all of that said, we expect to receive a deed formally to own that property in 2024, which is exciting. So I want to talk a little bit about that timeline. So as of Monday of this week, our incorporation paperwork was overnighted to the Secretary of State in Kentucky to start the process of establishing Russell A Place of Promise as a 501c3 organization and a community land trust. And so the decision to incorporate in this way was part of a multi-year conversation that we had with a group of residents who are part of our work groups. And so we are on track to be able to complete all of the paperwork that we need to complete to finish this process of incorporation by the end of this year. And we expect that 6 to 9 months after the first of the year, we will have all of our approvals for our 501c3 designation from the IRS. We'll have our state incorporation. We'll have our federal EIN number, which is our organization's tax ID number, and we will be ready to roll as our own nonprofit. There are several folks on tonight's call who are part of our founding board of directors. Charlene, Mr. Frank, I think Gabe is on this call. We're super excited that y'all are here. Thank you for making time to be with us. These are the folks who are helping us to make the decisions that need to be made to move forward with our incorporation and our organizational development. We also have another group of folks that we're working with to achieve all of the milestones that we need to meet to get this deed to the property, because there's the organizational timeline in our incorporation process, but there's also a set of milestones that have to be checked off of our list related to the planning and the construction of the first phase of this project. And so we are currently working with a team that is led by Perkins and Will Architects. And if you've been following us for the last few years, you've probably met them, you've probably participated, or at least heard about design sessions that we've had with the architects. And then we have a team of other professionals, including an owner's representative who's like our project manager, making sure that things keep moving. And then we also have civil engineers locally who are going to help us with our design and approval process. And then I mentioned we have an attorney, we have accountants, we're doing well on our professional services. If you've been by the site lately, you've also seen that we put up a really nice, very large fence. And that we also have hung 6 signs along 30th and Muhammad Ali and 30th and Madison Street, just letting everyone know that this site is going to be a space that is developed by the community for the community in partnership with Russell A Place of Promise. And so we're really excited about that. So as we work through these milestones, we expect that by the end of next year, we'll have our deed in hand. We'll also have put in our application for construction plan approval, which is like, construction plans are all the details about like, where does the electrical go and where does the plumbing go and what about those elevators? And those plans get approved by the city. And so once we have those plans submitted, that is the last step in our milestone process, and we'll be able to receive the deed to the property, which is super exciting. So I think I might have one more slide to talk about, and we can move on to that slide. Yeah, okay, so let's talk a little bit more in detail about our timeline. So in January of 2024, which is like literally like 7 weeks from now, y'all, and really running through March of next year, we are going to begin our transition away from our incubation, which has been with the Community Foundation as our fiscal sponsor, Louisville Metro Government and Cities United, giving us staff opportunities and other resources that we need for RPOP to be successful. So we're going to start to pull away from our incubating partners as we move toward our incorporation. And that's going to start with Louisville Metro Government. So we're going to receive less support from them, but not in a bad way. Starting with staff separation from Louisville Metro Government. So that's me. We're also going to be doing additional tenant development, and we're going to be doing additional design work as we move toward the construction plans for our first phase. And we're going to talk more about tenant development in just a minute, so hang on to that. So between April and June of next year, we will bring on additional board members. Our goal is to grow from 4 board members to 15 board members, which is a fully constituted board, and also to begin planning our capital campaign and developing our capital campaign. And that's about the money that we need to raise, both for Russell Place of Promise's long-term success and sustainability, but also for 30th and Madison Street, which is not an inexpensive project. So in July, between July and September of next year, we will launch our capital campaign. So we'll officially be out in fundraising mode for Russell Place of Promise and 30th and Madison Street. And we'll also start to bring on new co-leadership for the nonprofit organization, because we should be very close to receiving our 501c3 designation at that point. Between October and December of next year, we'll actually get our 501c3 status, and we will fully separate from all of our incubation partners as we take on this new and exciting adventure in nonprofit work. Between January and March of 2025, we will receive our deed. And actually, it's probably going to be more like December, January. We'll receive our deed, and then an agreement that accompanies the deed outlines the responsibility that we have to develop the property. And it outlines the city's commitments to Russell A Place of Promise to help make that possible. And then we're hopeful that in October of 2025, we will wrap up our first, or actually we'll start the groundbreaking for our first phase. And so that's all very exciting. So I'm going to turn it over to Kamara, who's going to talk about the next few slides about our design and our possible phasing plan.
Good evening, good people. Hope everybody can hear me just fine. Before I get started with explaining what we have here on our first version of our renderings, I do want to reiterate that this current design, of course, that you all see on the screen can potentially be shifted based upon the tenants, based upon other things that we found inside the early phase of the projects, and based upon the other individuals that we actually have that's going to be joining us at the site. But thus far, I'm going to explain what we have here. So if you see right here at the bottom middle of your screen, the bottom middle of your screen, as it goes up to the top right, this street right here is going to be Muhammad Ali, and this cross street that goes from the bottom to the middle left of your screen is 30th Street. So I'm going to use those streets to kind of navigate the way in which I'm describing the areas that you all see right here. And then this street that's going to be behind the property on the far left end of your screen, that is Madison Street. So right here along the Muhammad Ali side, what you'll see on this bottom level, that is geared to be retail and also a food hall that's going to be right there. And then right on the top of there is going to be housing. We're still trying to determine exactly what kind of housing and so forth is actually going to be there. But that section of the property will all be inside of the first phase of what is going to be built at 30th and Madison Street. And then if you move to what you have on 30th Street, right between Muhammad Ali and Madison, there is going to be a cultural center at the bottom. The top area of that is going to be RPOP's home office. And as you go to the corner over there, on the corner of 30th and Madison Street, there's going to be like an entrance area, and it's also going to be like a little bit of like a wet park for kids and so forth also. Now, if you go back here to the front of it where you all see this big oval space at, this is going to be like a one big open outdoor seating area for individuals just to kind of congregate and relax it. And also on the back side of that building at the top where I stated that there's going to be RPOP's home office, you can see where the top of the building kind of extends out a little bit past the roof. That's going to be one of those nice digital screens where you can play either promotions or you can put a movie on this screen right there. So as you're actually sitting inside of this oval yard right there, you'll be able to see whatever is on that screen. Immediately to the back left of where you have this oval screen there, you can see this front glass right there on the front side of that building. So at the bottom down there, we are thinking about either putting in a skating ring, bowling alley, or maybe a laundromat that's going to be inside of that space. And immediately on top of there, what's scheduled to be there thus far is going to be Play Cousins Collective. And it also includes upper level outdoor play yard for the students that they have there to be able to have access to the outside as well. Now, if we're moving right along to the right of there, you'll see what almost resembles some stadium-like seatings that go up, and also includes a little bit of green spaces right there. So that's kind of more so to make it like a more outdoor feel where individuals can just come and just relax all day. But also up under there too, though, where you see those seatings and the flat green spaces right there, that so far is projected to have Kentucky Greens there, where he does hydroponic growing for various vegetables. And he already has a pretty nice amount of different contacts up beside the city, so that'll be a nice asset to be able to add to the location as well. And then immediately to the left of there, where you see those jagged rims at, we're trying to find some various options for food resources or food outsourcing to the community as well, for other individuals to be there to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to the community. And we're also thinking about at that corner of where you see that jagged sawtooth roof at, of course, Madison Street is projected also to be a grocery store that's going to be situated right there. And then if you continue to go back up to the top of the screen, that's where the actual parking structure is to be located. I believe so far we've talked about having about 3 to 4 different levels of parking. And then on the top of there, at the top left, you'll see where there's an outdoor basketball court. And on the opposite corner of there, there's also projected to be some additional outdoor play space. And we've been thinking as well too on ways that we can be able to have this housing structure that's on top of the food hall and the retail space, where those individuals will be able to have various private access to their living coordinates, or their living residence rather, from the actual parking structure itself. But in general, what this project would be able to do is to bring a location into the heart of Russell, into the heart of the West, so where individuals that live down here would be able to enjoy their own neighborhood without having to go out and beyond the neighborhood to find something for themselves to do, for a date night, or for somewhere to take their family for a whole day and just have various activities and various things that they want to have planned. We're trying to be able to propose a site where it has multi-functions. So you might have an individual that might be coming here to go skating. Somebody might be coming here to watch a movie. Somebody's going to shop. Somebody might be coming to this spot to actually to visit one of their relatives or a friend that actually lives on the site. So with having those multi-functions, it's going to be an area that's going to be able to bring in a lot of different traffic to the area for various different reasons. But the whole nature of it is going to be something that's going to be very familiar and very family oriented and just very cultural oriented as well. And then speaking on those various themes that I was just discussing, thus far, we have worked with various individuals out of the community, these are the themes that we have landed on for this project. So we have community and family, because once you're able to extend the community out beyond just the individual that lives on your block or an individual that lives next door to you, and the constant interaction, that individual is able to become like family to you as well. The second themes that we have is arts and culture. It's important for individuals in the community to be able to see reflections of their artwork and reflections of their culture that's actually at the site. We don't want this place to be somewhere where you go at, but it does not seem familiar. So the site needs to be able to reflect arts and culture of the individuals that are from the area. And the next one is going to be entrepreneurship, because not only will we have this location here, but we want to also to be able to provide an atmosphere where individuals that have dreams, goals, and aspirations to be able to create their own business and to start their own path forward for themselves and their family have the ability to create their form of entrepreneurship at this site on 30th and Madison Street. And the last theme that we have is wellness. Now, one could look at all of these three things before that and state that wellness is incompetent or encompasses rather of those first three themes. But of course, wellness means way more than just community, family, arts and culture, and entrepreneurship. We want to also be able to have this space where individuals who might be going through something can be able to come here and might be able to see a service provider or just to come here and to be able to relax and enjoy their own space in their own community where they actually are able to feel well within themselves. So with that being stated, it's very important that any other additional businesses, organizations beyond what I had stated on the previous slide, that they align with one another in at least one or more of these various themes. And that way we are able to make sure that everybody that is inside this space, that is owning a piece of this space or housing a piece of this space for their organization or for their business is well aligned with the themes that we have already set forth. And these themes, of course, are themes that have been set forth by the actual residents and by other individuals that Russell Place of Promise has been connecting with through this process of trying to figure out exactly what individuals would like to see at 30th and Madison Street. So if you're sitting there and you're listening and you're thinking about somebody that you know of that has a business or has an organization, please make sure that their business and organization is aligned with some of these various project themes that you see on the screen at this moment. And with that being said, we are going to continue to move right along.
All right. So as Dr. Douglas just covered, we do have 4 themes that came from residents, and residents have been a part of our process in doing tenant development. If you all remember, we have done a variety of pitches basically for businesses and organizations that want to locate at 30th and Madison. Those have included pitches that have been in person. So we did some at LCCC, as well as at the Urban Links Sports and Learning Center. We've also done pitches virtually, and now we're going to transition in a different phase of how we are going to move forward with adding additional tenants in. And so, yeah. I think the next slide is supposed to be covering the tenant. Yes. Okay. Yes. This is where we're at. So, so this next phase of adding additional tenants will look this way, because we're winding down the year, and moving into next year. We want to do a different way of folks' ability to pitch. So to Kamara's point, if you know of businesses or organizations that are aligned in those 4 themes, this is the way that we're going to do things moving forward. So that is, we're asking businesses and community organizations interested to being at 30th and Madison to put together a 5-minute video answering a set of questions that folks have already responded to. It's about 7 or 8 questions. And we'll share that out on social media as well as in a follow-up email and on our website. But folks will be responsible for answering those 7 or 8 questions, and do that in video format in that 5-minute video, and submit that video to us by December 10th. I believe that is a Friday. And then once we have, it's a Sunday actually. And once we have those videos in, we will then post on our social media pages on YouTube as well as on Facebook for community members to be able to view and get a better understanding of that organization or that business's vision of being at 30th and Madison Street. Those videos will be available on December 15th. Everyone will be able to watch those videos and then complete a community survey responding to that video. So those, and folks can also ask those organizations and businesses questions in that survey that then we will share out to them, and then they'll be able to respond to that. So the community survey will end on January 30th. of next year, and the results will be released, and additional conversations will take place in Q1. And when we say Q1, that's January through March of next year. So likely those conversations will really happen in February and in March as we continue to look for tenants. So that is going to be our process. Again, we will follow up with folks that are really interested. I know a couple of you all are on the Zoom call. We'll follow up with those details, and then we'll also share that out on social media. But that would be our process. If you do have questions right now, feel free to drop them in the chat box. We'll try to get to those at the end of this conversation. And then I'm going to pass it over to Teresa to share a little bit more about our timeline. So we're all on the same page. We've been doing quite a bit of work talking to our architects, Perkins and Will, as well as owners reps and some other folks to get more information that we need to really create this solid plan. And so she's going to provide some additional updates.
Yep. Thanks, Cassandra. So we have been busy, y'all. There is a lot going on behind the scenes with 30th and Madison Street. And I want to just kind of re-emphasize a few things that we've talked about so far, and then share a couple more details with you that'll be helpful just in your understanding of what's going on with this project. So Kamara, can we go back to the slide that has the beautiful picture of the project on it? Because I think that would be lovely. Thanks, Donna, for that lovely post in the chat. I think we should do this more often. So when we look at this picture, this project is going to cost more than $100 million to build in its entirety. And so before your jaws hit the desk or the floor or the couch or whatever they're closest to, just know that most projects of this size and scale take 5+ years to get done. Nobody comes in this market in Louisville, Kentucky, with a project that has multiple buildings on a campus and says, I'm gonna build that all in 1 year or 2 years, and I'm gonna do it all in one phase. This project is going to be phased. We are going to take this on in chunks because that's the best way to eat an elephant, or pick your preferred metaphor for how to do a big project or take on a big task. So Kamara mentioned that our first piece of this phasing is going to likely be this building along Muhammad Ali that has Melanair Market, the food hall, and then the residential piece above. It makes sense for that to be the first piece because that is the place that we're going to see people coming on a regular basis for food, for shopping, for entertainment. And so it's a way to build momentum and a way to build excitement for folks about this project. There is likely to be a fairly boring phase that comes right before this building gets built. And it is in the interest of satisfying our milestones that we have with the city. So when we start talking about our first phase next year, it might sound like we're going to build the service road between the future parking garage and the residential building. And we're going to do all the infrastructure for the plumbing, and we're going to do all the infrastructure for the major utility points like sewer and electrical to this site. There will be some remediation of this site. For the folks who've been around this project for a while, you remember that this is a brownfield. It's not as dirty a brownfield as even the Urban League site was across the street, but it doesn't mean that there's nothing that needs to happen to make this usable. And so site remediation will also be part of our first phase, but our second first phase will be this building. And so we're really excited about that. And so a lot of our work right now is to understand our true project cost for that second first phase, and also our first phase around the infrastructure and the site remediation. So that's a piece of our consideration right now. And another piece of it is that right now, Russell, A Place of Promise is not a housing developer. And so we need somebody to come in and give us advice and support on what this residential piece looks like. Part of that is research, market research, to understand what is the demand in this area for multifamily, and is it demand for apartments, or is it demand for condos, or is it demand for something that could convert from apartments to condos in the future? We're also exploring, and this is something that's going to happen in more earnest next year, but we're also starting to think about our community ownership model. This is a big thing that needs to get worked out as we start to think through the development of the site. Because if our mission is to build Black wealth in Russell for families, we can't take on $100 million plus project without creating pathways for community ownership. And so that's going to be a piece of this work as well. Other than those really big picture things, we're also starting to think about our capital campaign. Like, what is the money that needs to be raised for this, and where does that money come from? Does it come from foundations and philanthropy? Does it come from individuals who want to be philanthropic and give money to support this project? Does it come from debt and equity or other financing tools that are out there in the world that are available through tax credits? Or bonds or things like that. And so capital stack is the word for that, for how all the layers of money sort of stack up to meet your total cost for your project. And so we'll be working on that, and we are working on that as well. So those are really the big pieces that are going on right now. And then of course there's tenant development, because although we have committed partners for some of the pieces of this site, with 230,000 square feet of space to fill, we have room for many, many more. And so that is another big piece of what's sort of going on behind the scenes, and now more in front of the scenes. And Cassandra's going to chime in.
Yes, so I'm going to
Yep.
add a couple of other things that we're keeping in mind as we continue to plan out. So there are a lot of changes, as you all already know, happening in the Russell neighborhood with the announcement of the hospital that's coming right down off of Broadway and the Goodwill Opportunity Campus. There's also the Eclipse apartments that are happening just right down the street from 30th and Madison, where there's going to be over 200 units. And so that's a lot of families and individuals that will be moving into the neighborhood over the next few years. And then you all may have heard about the additional project that's coming into Russell that's actually just right down the block from the 30th and Madison Street site, and that's a Bezos Academy. There's 3 Bezos Academies opening up in Louisville in the next few years. Russell will have one of those Bezos Academies coming. There was a community meeting that happened last night at Elder Serve, and maybe some of you all were attended that meeting. If you did, please drop any notes or any takeaways from that community meeting that happened last night. But that is happening as well. So those are things that we're considering about, like all this activity that's coming in and around 30th in Madison and Muhammad Ali. How is that going to impact the community in both a positive as well as a negative way? And what can we do as Russell Place of Promise with residents to try to mitigate the negative impacts that could happen to the community? So everything from traffic issues that may be happening or displacement concerns, things like that. We're trying to think through and be really thoughtful to make sure that this project, as Teresa mentioned, it's a pretty hefty dollar on it that doesn't disrupt or try to have as less interruptions as possible to people, and that we're keeping folks updated and really informing all those different things are informing our project and how we build this out together. And I think that is the last piece I wanted to update before we go back to the tenant development piece.
Yeah.
If we can go back to that slide, Kamara.
And as we're going there, I also want to just say that there's an opportunity for businesses and community organizations to get involved at 30th and Madison Street, but there's also still an opportunity for residents to support us and to get involved in the project. And so that is all about sharing the vision and sharing the plans with friends, family, colleagues, anyone who will talk to you. And also making sure to emphasize the importance of this project with your elected officials. And that's everybody from your Metro Council representative to the mayor. And again, anyone that you can get to talk to you. We need collective community support to make this project possible. And y'all have been such amazing partners in that over the last 6 years. And we need that support to continue to be successful.
Yeah. And on the tenant development piece, just reiterating that this is going to be our new process, the process I outlined earlier around submitting videos. So we are shifting away from doing in-person presentations, at least for the moment now, so that we could get those, do a virtual version of doing pitches. We may resume doing things in person next year, later on next year. But as of right now, if your CBO, your community-based organization, or your business is interested in being a tenant, this is the process that's outlined on the screen is our current process for at least the first part of next year. All right, I think we want to get to questions. So we created a Jamboard slide, and Kamar's going to pull that up, and Daphne, and Danae and Marcus, if you all can help capture people's questions. Some questions we are going to be able to answer this evening, and some we're not going to be able to right now, but we will follow up with you all again in the new year. So if you have questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat, and you can also unmute. And then and can I get a thumbs up from the team that we are going to start capturing those in the Jamboard?
I got you.
Cool, thank you. All right, so if y'all have those questions, drop them in the chat or either unmute. If you can raise your hand first, actually, raise your hand first, and then we can select you and unmute. Anyone's hand raised? So Kayla asked a question, are there any conditions under which RPOD would be subjected to newly passed anti-displacement ordinance? Yes, actually. That's a great question. We will likely, with this work, either at 30th and Madison, because of the first phase, will be that residential up top, and food hall and business market down below. That property, that piece of the phase will likely have to go through the assessment that the ordinance has put in place. There also will be our community land trust project that we're also working through that will likely fall underneath the ordinance. Now, we don't know what that will look like exactly right now because it's just new, it's just fresh, it was just passed last week. And so we're thinking through that, but that definitely is something that will have to be assessed on. We have Lakeisha said, I know that vision alignment was highlighted as important factors for businesses. Are there any other determining factors? Income, years in business? Great questions. Those we can't answer at the moment, but it's something that we're continuing to think through.
And we know that the organizations and businesses that are going to locate at the site are going to need to be able to pay rent. We don't know what that's going to look like as far as monthly costs. We don't know what the common area maintenance fee or the CAM will be, but we know that this is not going to be a situation where people can come in and have free rent. So that will eventually be a piece of the conversation that we need to move through with everyone who's signed up as a partner, and for folks who are interested in partnering with us to become part of this development. As we work through our budget and we work through our development costs, that'll be a piece of the conversation that we're better able to handle.
We have another question in regards to security, which has come up a couple of times in our community conversation. So is there going to be security, and what will that look like? Yes, it will likely be security for the property. Not sure what that will look like, but ideally it would be a Black-owned company. If you all know of Black-owned security companies, they could even pitch to be at the site. That would actually be great. So if you all have contacts of Black security companies that are doing well and are interested in expanding and being a part of this project, please let us know. But yes, we definitely have that in mind as well.
Other questions?
And folks can also raise their hands if you want to unmute and share out.
Oh, good question. Definitely concerned for residents that are on the Madison Street side is their conversation about routing traffic away from the homes. So yes, with that service road that needs to get built between the parking garage and the rest of the development site, there's an opportunity for us to do some strategic design to sort of keep people away from people's houses. We're also in conversation, at least early conversation, with the city and with Metro Council folks about a residential parking ordinance, like what exists around the University of Louisville, to make sure that those residents on Madison Street and probably a couple of other blocks around the site have dedicated protected parking, so that folks who are coming to 30th and Madison Street don't use up all the street parking and disadvantage those residents. This is another really good question. Kayla, you've got your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead and ask, and then I'll go back to the chat?
Yeah, so I was just sitting here thinking, you know, we're coming from this conference, so I'm like in school mode. But so like U of L has in the past, they've had offices that are doing like social justice and equity work, like move to the West End. And you know, to the extent that like residents would be interested, I think it might be a good opportunity to have like a very well-funded kind of cornerstone, quote unquote, business move in. But that's just I don't know what pathway to accomplish that by, but that's a thought that just occurred.
Yeah, no, that's great. Just like the mall has the department stores and those are the anchors, we know that a development of this scale needs an anchor, and that's something that we're thinking about with our tenant development process. So the next question in the chat is, what does the fundraising look like? And would that include asking the churches? So TBD, we are still working through the design and planning for our capital campaign. And so there will be opportunities for folks to get involved in our capital campaign committee once we resume it next year. And we would love to have all the ideas that you have as part of that process.
We just have about 4 minutes left, but I see we have another question in the chat box from Karen. There are a lot of homeless people and less fortunate people looking for work. Are you going to give them paid job work? So yes, that would be the ideal situation. The businesses that we are going to have on the site and community-based organizations, part of what we are asking when they pitch is how do they plan to employ folks from the neighborhood? How do they plan to employ other folks in community? And so that's something that we want those businesses and organizations to keep in mind, because they will be the majority of the folks that are employing people to come to that site every day and throughout the day. As for the RPOP side of the work, who we will be employing, that's something that we still have to figure out. But we have thought about property management company, because we need to keep the residential side as well as the business side operating in the public space. So that could be a potential to employ folks. We've also thought about some other things that we need, like if we do have a laundry facility, who's going to operate that? But the majority of the employment opportunities are going to come from the businesses and the community-based organizations that will be located there.
Right.
And that's something that we can push in and reiterate to them before we start on the construction side and finalize all tenants.
Yeah.
We have another question from Lakeisha. Are the retail spaces for businesses all similar in size? If not, are there factors in place to determine who would get which space?
Great question. So we have beautiful, beautiful pictures of what the outside of this development is going to look like, and 0 pictures of what the inside is going to look like. So that is a next phase of our design cycle. And that is where we are currently with Perkins and Will, is figuring out who can help us develop those designs so that we are thinking about questions like retail spaces for businesses. With Melanair Market, that has traditionally operated as more of a pop-up. And so the current space that they have at Mall St. Matthews, and if you haven't been to see it, please go check out their holiday market. We're sponsors and we're super duper proud of where things are for them this year. They're actually in a retail space instead of just out in kiosks, and it's fabulous. So thinking about what their needs are as far as flexibility, We know that they have models. We also have been to see several different retail spaces. Julietta Market in Lexington is a great example. Cassandra and Donnea had a chance to go to New York a few weeks ago to look at some of these sort of market hall type operations in Flatbush, and also out at the Far Rockaways. And so those are the kinds of things that we're continuing to explore. So we don't have a firm answer on that question yet. But what I'll say is that it's probably going to be pretty flexible, and we still have a lot of design work to do.
Okay, we have just about 1 minute left. If anyone else has any more questions, drop those in the chat box. If more questions come up for you as you step away from this meeting, feel free to reach out to our email address. If we could have one of the team members drop our outreach team email address for folks so they can reach out for questions. You can also DM us, private message us on social media. Facebook and Instagram will probably be the easiest and fastest way that you'll get a response from us. And I see Donnea drop that outreach team email address. So it's outreach@russellpromise.com. So you can email your questions. Also, as just like part of our wrap up, there's a few things we want to share with you all. So our last event, so we can stop sharing on the questions. And then if we can go back to the slide deck, do we have any slides that have like our upcoming flyers or anything, Kamara? If not, it's all good. So our upcoming, we have one event that is upcoming on November 30th. It is our last community dinner of this year. It is going to be 5:30 to 8 o'clock at Elder Serve. So if you're looking to connect with us one more time before the end of this year, that's the time to do it. Our focus for that session will be on housing. So if y'all have been engaged around our community land trust work, or haven't but want to hear more about it, that's your opportunity to plug in, to learn about what our folks over at the Russell Futures Learning Lab have been doing, to really build out the new CLT that's coming to Louisville in the Russell neighborhood. We'll also talk a little bit more about 30th and Madison Street, so folks are updated. Yes, Daphne dropped the link to our event page, our website event page, where you can find that flyer. You can also see it on social media. So as Teresa mentioned, repost, reshare. We will also be posting this video, this Zoom recording up on our YouTube and on Facebook as well. So you all can revisit it, or you can share it with others that weren't able to make it this evening. We are going to be taking a break. We're going to be taking a winter break starting December 20th. So you will not hear from us until we come back into the new year. And we'll return January 3rd. So if you reach out to us, just give us some time. It's been a long year. And so we're getting our rest so that we can come back in 2024 stronger and better than ever. So we will be taking a break from December 20th until January 3rd. And then you all will hear from us in January 2024. If y'all have, again, any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We want to say thank you for joining us for this past hour to learn about our updates with 30th and Madison, and look forward to seeing you all on November 30th.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. I will share some things that I heard from the Bezos Academy meeting yesterday at our next gathering. I tried to type it in the chat and I got it finished, and then I got kicked out.
Oh, dang.
So I got all my notes. I will share that then.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
It happens. Oh my gosh.
Y'all have a good night.
Have
Bye.
a great
You too.
night.
Thanks, Charlene.
Everybody have a good night. Have a good evening.
You too.
Have a good evening,
Take
everybody.
care.